there. I'm not sure if anybody's there. It says it's people are waiting, but I don't see anybody. If you are here and you want to drop your name in the chat, that's amazing. Would love to connect with you. If you have a question, if something that you would like to talk about, that is the whole idea of today. If you don't know me, my name's Leslie Fiorenzo, and I just wanted to come here to share a few ideas with folks. I'm a business presentation coach, and a lot of my work is around helping people get comfortable in front of a live audience or on camera. And it's been my experience that there's two things that kind of trip people up. And one is what I call your inner critic. We all have this, little voice in our head that says some not so very nice things to us on a fairly regular basis. And when we listen to that voice, it can stop us from sharing our message. And if you were given an idea for a business, for a presentation, you maybe were in a meeting at work and something said, "Ooh, you should speak up." You need to listen to that voice, but all too often we ignore it because the critic appears and says, "Oh, you're not good enough," or "Who do you think you are?" or "No one's going to want to hear from you. Just be quiet." Well, being quiet doesn't serve anyone, especially you. So I want to encourage you to speak up when it's necessary. Speak up by going live. I wasn't quite sure how to do this afternoon, but I figured it out. Here I am. Don't know if anybody's going to jump on with me. I would love that if someone did show up and we could have a conversation. The other challenge I have with YouTube Live, this is my first time. You probably can tell that. And I'm not sure if you're going to be able to ask me a question using your microphone or if you have to drop something in the chat. And I don't see anything in the chat. And I've got a couple likes, but again, I don't know what that means and I'm not sure how to interpret it. So experiment along with me. Have fun. Share your ideas, share your message, speak up in that meeting, create that video, attend that event, that networking event, and talk about yourself. So back to the inner critic. I kind of lost my place. I got on a tangent there. Your inner critic is designed to keep you safe, but you're working with a 20 million year old brain. Our brain was designed when there were threats in the wild, so to speak. We'd have to wake up every day and hunt for food, protect our families, the kinds of things that most people, especially we're in a first world country, we don't have to deal with. But your brain hasn't quite caught up. And it interprets things like public speaking as risky behavior. So it wants to keep you safe, so it makes up a story. And it tells you things like, who's going to want to hear from you? You're not good enough. Who do you think you are? All of those stories that if we're not careful, we listen to and we believe, and it keeps us hidden. It keeps us stuck. So the people who are out there sharing their message are no longer listening to those stories, and they're able to overcome that fear and share their message in a way that attracts their ideal clients, gets ideas at work across in an effective way, gets your idea listened to, promoted, those kinds of things. So if your inner critic is keeping you stuck, you want to change it to an inner champion. And I go into quite a bit of detail in a couple of ways in my books that I've published, in my coaching sessions, but let me give you a high-level overview today. First of all, thank your critic. Everyone likes to be thanked for doing their job. even if they're not doing a great job, and your critic's not doing a great job, right? It's keeping you stuck. But we want to change it to a champion. So first of all, thanking it. Second, retraining it. Now, the good news about our brain is it is flexible. It's like plastic. They call it neuroplasticity. And we can retrain it with the right programming. And when I say right programming, we need to, again, you're thanking your critic and then telling it, here's what would be more helpful instead. Instead of telling me, I'm not great at this, tell me something like, you know what? You're growing and you're learning and you can figure this out. You've figured out a lot of stuff before in your life. You can figure this out. Now, maybe you need a little bit of help from somebody who's an expert, and getting help is okay. You might need some support, and reaching out for support is okay. Retraining that critic into the voice of a champion is what you want to do. So finding out what would be more helpful, instructing it. So when that critical voice shows up, you can say, ooh, I recognize you. Here's what I'm going to say instead. Here's what I want to believe instead. Here's how I want to feel instead. And so focus on those things that make you feel good, that will move you forward, that will allow you to call forth that champion so that you can share your message on stage, share your idea in a meeting, attend that networking event and talk about your business in an effective way. Do the things you know you want to be doing, you need to be doing to grow professionally. Whether you're a business owner or you're on a sales team for someone, or you are accounting or engineering or IT, and you need to share your idea in a meeting. Maybe you're somebody on the production line, but you've been called to join the safety committee. And that is a little bit scary because when I'm on that committee, that means I have to speak up. I've got to show up. And it is quite doable when you retrain that critic into a champion. There's rituals that you want to create to summon your champion every day. I believe it starts with how you greet the day, how you face your morning. And then in my process, you don't know, I have a 5 steps to speaking success process or method. And the 4th step is what I call prime your presence. And that's what you do right before you step out on stage. It's what you do to prepare yourself in those few moments before you enter the conference room for the meeting. You hit play on the recorder or you hit go live. It's a breath work, it's a mantra, and it's a power pose. At least that's the combination I recommend in the moments before. Because that's the other place I've had people tell me they struggle. They struggle with, I can't even do this. And that's the inner critic piece. And they struggle with, I can do it, but it's just, the tension builds before I get there. Once I get going, I'm fine. So let's reduce that tension. Let's create a ritual for you to show up and there is a no angst. You can be calm, you can be cool, you can be collected, and give yourself a pat on the back, if you will. Give yourself the ability to move forward and share your message so your insides are not all jumbly. Your insides are calm. And that's where a breathing technique can be really helpful. Maybe it's boxed breathing. That's a very popular technique. And that is simply breathing in to the count of 4, holding your inhale for the count of 4, exhaling through your mouth to the count of 4. So kind of sighing it out and then holding that exhale to the count of 4. Now, there are some alternatives. You can breathe in for 4 counts, hold 1, 2, exhale for 4 counts, hold 3, 4, breathing in 1 deep breath, exhaling, sighing it out 2 or 3 times, breathing into a color of blue, which is a calming color, breathing out the color red, which is a stressful color, visualizing that, breathing in that cool blue air, filling your lungs, filling your bloodstream with calmness, and then exhaling that color red, seeing that leave your body in a cloud of red. It's escaping you, you're letting it go. Visualization helps. Whatever it is, make it yours. So I think a breathing technique is a key to helping you calm down, be present, be focused, and show up in a way that is authentic. In my blog post today, I wrote a post about it's not fake it till you'll make it. I think that that's a fallacy that a lot of people have adopted. Oh, I just got to show up and fake it till I make it. No, you have to show up and be real. You have to show up and be who you are. So before I get there, I've done some things to prepare myself to be the best I can be and to show up in a real, genuine way. So I don't have to fake it anymore. I can be who I am meant to be. I can share my story with impact, even if it's in a meeting at work. I can share my idea in a confident manner. If people don't buy it, okay, they don't buy it, but I've shared it, and that's the point. So summoning your inner champion and priming your presence are 2 keys to my 5 steps. Now, steps obviously is a word and things are in order, but you don't have to do them in order. T is what I call tackle obstacles early. And obstacles are different for everybody. What is an obstacle for you might not be for me. Years ago, I worked with a woman, and if she had to go any place new in town, she would drive there the night before. She wanted to make sure she knew where she was going. And I always marveled at her ability to do that. I'm like, I'm just going to figure it out on the way. And this was well before any of the apps we have now, MapQuest and those kinds of things. And MapQuest is dated. But, open the map app on your phone to figure out your route. Well, this was back in the day where you had to get directions from somebody over the phone and write things down. And I have a pretty good sense of direction, so I knew I'd figure things out, but I was always marveled at her doing that. So I share that to say, what's your obstacle and what might you do in advance to show up and get rid of that obstacle? So for a lot of people, the microphone, especially when you're in person, is an obstacle. I've seen it time and time again. People are handed the mic as we go around the room, maybe with introductions, or they're invited to present. They've got their presentation prepared and they're given the mic and they refuse it. Couple things. Microphone is not your enemy. Learn to use it to your advantage. It saves your voice, number one. It helps project you. And that's the other thing that kind of freaks people out is I'm also, when I'm on the mic, I'm hearing myself. If I'm in a room, I can hear that. And not everyone likes the sound of their voice. It took me a long time to get used to hearing it on camera, watching myself, editing videos, those kinds of things. That was pretty tricky at first. I have to admit that. And it took me a minute to realize if I didn't do it, this was going to be a big part of my work. I had to figure it out. So what are your obstacles? Is it the microphone? How am I going to work with that? Is it, I don't know where to stand, or I don't know what to do with my hands? A lot of people tell me that when they're in person, they're not sure what to do, how to make motions. I would just say most of the time you're going to stand with your hands by your side in a relaxed fashion. Now, you probably will use them to make a point and make some gestures, and gestures are fine, but practicing might be helpful. Getting comfortable, stand in the mirror and look yourself in the eye, present, like do a couple lines of your presentation, watch yourself, get comfortable with that, and then you can do it in person. People often avoid that like the plague because it's not comfortable. It's not something we're used to doing, and that inner critic chimes in. Oh, well, hey, I'm doing this to benefit myself. I'm doing this so I can get better and I can improve. And I'm doing this so I can get comfortable being uncomfortable. And that's a little bit cliche-ish today, but I really mean that. The more we practice, the more comfortable we get. So look for opportunities. If you avoid sharing your story at a networking event, I'll just throw out a challenge. Find yourself a couple to go to each week. It's helpful to go with a partner and work the room together so you can maybe compare who you met or introduce each other as you go around the room. A companion can be helpful. Figure out what your obstacles are and tackle them before they get to be a problem. Tackle obstacles early. Energizing and engaging your audience is my third step. G, I hope today's meeting is boring, said no one ever. We all have an expectation that somehow the meeting is going to be entertaining, is going to be informative. And, most meetings are held to problem solve and be informative, but not a lot of them are entertaining. And if I'm leading that meeting, I think it behooves you to think about how I can engage and energize my audience. When they leave that meeting, I want them to feel like this was time well spent. So my hope for you today, by either attending live, I know I've got some comments in the chat, so there's people here, yay, that you feel energized and that you've engaged by making some comments. So I really appreciative of that. And I quite honestly thought, I've never done a live stream before, thought maybe there would be an opportunity for us to interact and you to unmute yourself. I don't think that's the case. I think I need to be on Zoom to do that and not on YouTube. Okay, lesson learned. It doesn't matter, but I appreciate you being here and want you to leave feeling like this was a good use of your time, that you learned something or something was affirmed, because maybe you didn't learn anything brand new, but it affirmed something for you or it reminded you. I had that experience earlier today where I was on a lunch and learn and the woman was talking about some ideas that were familiar to me, but they were also good reminders because I hadn't thought about them. In one case, hadn't used that tactic in a while. So it was a great reminder. So that's my goal for you today. But when you think about engaging with other people, even if it's at a networking event, you want to leave that person you're talking with better than they were before they talked to you. It's about energizing and engaging. So to that end, showing up prepared, knowing the answer to the question, hey, what do you do? And not fumbling and stumbling, because I know you've seen people do that. And when they're told you have 60 seconds, they go on for 5 minutes. They've lost all track of time. So if I'm showing up at a networking event, I have how I'm going to introduce myself in my back pocket. I know what I'm going to say. And it's an opportunity to create curiosity about me. So my 60-second intro is obviously about me, but it creates curiosity. And then I have some questions prepared to ask other people as I'm at the networking event. Now, every networking event is slightly different. So it helps to know what you're going into. A connect over coffee, for example, at a chamber is a little different, although many have formats, than I'll just use BNI as an example because many people are familiar with that concept, the weekly meeting where you have your 60-second ask, if you will, or sometimes they call it commercial. It's been called different things over the years, but the intention of a networking group like that is different than a networking coffee with a chamber or a lunch and learn. Sometimes at a lunch and learn, you can have the opportunity to introduce yourself, even though the focus is on the speaker and what they're saying. Whatever it is, be prepared and have a great answer to the question, what do you do? And then have some questions prepared to ask the other people. Your goal, at least my opinion of networking, is twofold. Be seen, but then make connections to further the conversation, to further your business. So you're evaluating in your head by listening to this other person. Does it make sense for us to have a further conversation? Could they be a client or could they be a referral partner? Because you can find both things at networking. So I've covered the prime your presence. That's the P. So then that takes us to what I call the S, or the last step in 5 steps to speaking success method, and that is stories. Sharing stories that stick. Because facts tell, but stories stories sell. I was distracted because I looked at the chat and I should look right at the camera. Anyway, facts tell, stories sell. And we want to invite people into the conversation with a story. Now, a story can be one sentence. I don't know when you learned your keyboard, but I learned to type on a typewriter. So that's how I learned my keyboarding skills. And the sentence I learned on that we all practice because it has every letter in the English alphabet was, the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. But that's also a story because it creates an image in your head. At least I hope it created the image of a fox jumping over a dog. Now, maybe it created your hands on the keyboard. I'm not sure which. But the idea is stories don't have to be lengthy. They can be very succinct, but they have to carry a message. When you're sharing a story, it's about an idea that you're communicating. So what I tell people is, as they're preparing a presentation, and a presentation to me is, again, longer than 60 seconds. So it's your 10-minute at your chapter meeting, or it's an opportunity to do a lunch and learn for clients or prospective clients at an event. And that's maybe 30 minutes or 60 minutes, depends on the length of time, depends on the event. But back to story. Never make a point without a story, and never share a story without a point. I made that mistake the first time out. I just told several stories that were totally unrelated and left the audience very confused because somebody told me you need to tell stories. Okay, well, stories that have no purpose or no point in a presentation are, generally speaking, a waste of time. So let's say you're talking about your business and you want to share a new product that's just launched or a new service that you are wanting to provide. Sharing a story about that can be a helpful way to get people engaged and wanting to know more about what it is that you do. So you want to give an overview and not get too deep in the particulars as you're communicating your message. The particulars are for a one-on-one conversation if someone's interested in your service, and you can share all the details about how you work and what your work together might look like, and answer their questions about being a client and closing the deal, if you will. Well, if I'm sharing an overview about my business or product I'll just use the example of a lunch and learn, and I want to go into, as I did today, my 5 steps to speaking success. then I'm going to share information and share a story. So I might tell you a story about a client that I worked with who literally his knees knocked when he got up at a networking event. He told me this. He said, my knees literally knocked together. I'm so nervous. I'm so anxious about that. Well, we worked together, and I'm happy to say that he was able to calm that reflex, because it is a reflex. It's about our nerves and our anxiety in our body. And when we can learn to harness it and control it and reframe that, it can be really powerful. So he was able not only to do his presentation in his networking group, but then give a presentation of a longer time to his group of business professionals at his oh my gosh, I can't think of the word, franchise meeting. That's what I'm looking for. He was asked to speak at a franchise meeting, and he had refused that because of his nerves, because of his anxiety. So when I worked together, he was able to conquer that fear. So I'm really happy about that. So it begins with summoning your inner champion, and it's the next step is tackling obstacles early, energizing and engaging your audience, priming your presence, and sharing stories that stick is my framework for speaking success. And so let me stop there and see if people have questions or if they would like to make a comment. And that will allow me to take a sip of water. Oh, of course.